Bitcoin just tested the yearly open as support, and now we are seeing a bit of a bounce here. So I'm going to talk you through what we might see for the next 48 hours on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and how you can trade it based on the levels that we have close by. Now, first things first, let's cover what we have seen this week, because it's very important to understand the context behind what we are seeing so that you can understand where you should be targeting with the trade setup that I'm going to show you in a couple minutes. Now, what is important on this chart right now? Number one is that we have opened the week right here, right? And the important thing about this candle is that if we zoom in to that candle, you can see that we don't have a wick to the upside on the weekly candle. This is the case for Binance, and this is the case for a couple other big exchanges on crypto, and usually those levels can be deemed as inefficiencies, especially when you have single prints on top of them as well. If you don't know what single prints are, they are 30-minute fair value gaps from ICT concepts and from order flow and TPO concept as well. So what we do is I go to my rectangle and I just pull up this zone right here. So this zone here is your single print zone, which means there is a lack of resistance in this zone. So if price was to come up back to $93,000 and potentially above the weekly level right here, there is a very big lack of resistance above the price. Last time I said this was when we were testing the weekly level right here. I told you guys that we don't have much of a support level until the yearly open if the weekly level was lost. And what happened? Well, we have lost the weekly, and now we have tested the yearly open basically today. So I mean yesterday. So that was very important. Now, what matters here is this range right here. We have a daily level below us and we have a weekly level above us. And both of these levels are very important because of the context that's behind them. What is the context? Well, the context behind the daily level is that we have tested the yearly open, we have seen a big pump, and we have a great confluence at that daily as well. What is that golden confluence? Well, it's the golden pocket. You can see that the daily level is coming exactly in the middle of the golden pocket. So if price was to test this zone like this, what happens is we could potentially look for long positions in the next couple hours. And for me, the reason why this is a great trade is because when you are coming close to a zone that is very crucial and you have a very easy invalidation, it means that you could have a very good risk to reward ratio trade. So in this case, if I were to take a long position from this zone and I put my stop loss below this low that we had on yesterday, I could target the single prints that is above me, right? So here is the single prints that is above. That gives me a 4.93R long setup. Amazing. How can we take this trade? Well, for me, there is a couple entry triggers that I always use, and I don't think this will be much different as well. What are those? Well, I'm looking for, first of all, bullish CVD divergences. Second of all, I'm looking for increasing open interest. And third of all, I'm looking for a reaction. So very simple things, right? I'm first looking for CVD divergences. Why? Well, because I want to see absorption. I want to see that big players are actually entering the market at this level. Number two, increasing open interest. I want to see that because I want to see people joining the market at these levels, which would mean that we would have trapped traders at that zone. And number three, I want a reaction. So if the market comes down and in the first minute or 5 minutes of market tapping that level, we do one of these, I'm not going to be interested, right? So I want a bit of a consolidation right here, tap that zone, have a bit of a reaction, and then let me join the market right here for a, whatever it is, like 4-hour trade, right? Because since it's already a high R trade, I don't care if I enter it from here or here. So just wait for the reaction, wait for divs, and wait for increasing open interest. And if you want to know what these things mean, well, join the tag team because we have a very good education there about the daily levels that I just showed you. We have Exocharts showing you about open interest, CVD, footprint chart markers, and everything that you need to trade order flow smartly. So that is the long setup that I'm looking for in Bitcoin locally right now. For the short setup, it's a bit more tricky because I think the short setup could only come from the zone that is above this Wednesday high, right? So the reason I say that is because of the lack of support or the lack of resistance that we have here as well. We have consolidated here for a while, and am I going to short the market from here? Probably not. However, we have a very good resistance level above us. That is the weekly VWAP. Now, I've told you this on Tuesday as well. If we are to reclaim the weekly VWAP, which basically means going above and then testing it with divergences, if we do one of those, that's a very bullish sign on the market. However, we could potentially do the opposite as well, which basically means we could test that level and then come back below the highs of Wednesday. And then here, if you're seeing these signs, right? Bearish CVD divergences, increasing open interest, and high positive delta. What this would mean is that we have bearish absorption going on at $90,000. And that would mean that we could take a short trade with a very small invalidation like this. And we could potentially target the daily, or we could target the next level of support below us, which in my opinion the biggest one is the weekly MPOC at $82,000. So it could turn out to be a runner, but it could turn out to be just a take profit one, and then you get stopped out from the position as well. So I think what you should not do here is try to predict what's going to happen next, because if we look at the chart on the higher time frame scale, you can see that we are in a triangle, and we have seen a triangle fake out to the upside, and now we are trying to do the exact same thing to the downside. So if price is able to reclaim this level by the end of the day, right, regardless of how it does, so market could have a bigger wick like this and then finish the day here, I think that would be a very bullish sign for Friday. However, if the market ends up finishing the day below these levels around, $88,000, $87,000, I think that's opening the door for a bigger drop. And if that drop comes in, what would be the target? Well, we can just talk about the easiest way of finding the target for these triangles is the length of the triangle. So in this case, it would be around $76,000. And is that level possible? I think so, yeah, right? That triangle low would be the main target, but the formational target would be $76,000. Again, if that level comes, amazing. I would be very happy to look for longs in that zone as well. So on the higher time frame, the picture is a bit easier to read because we have a triangle, we are hitting support level right now, and it's a bit easier to understand. On the local time frame, we could move in 100 different ways, and the main goal that you should have right now should be understanding how you can take positions from either side and then let the runner win. And what I mean by that is, let's say the market pushes down first and we hit this daily level, we see a good reaction, and then you take a long position, right? So like we said, with your stop loss below the low, like this, and you have the entry triggers that we talked about as well, and you're targeting that in the single print row right there, and then market starts to push up, does one of these, and then hits the weekly VWAP during the end of the day, and you might have a take profit one right here. So this would be your take profit one. You would make money, and then you would put your stop loss at entry, and you would just leave the chart as it is. And let's say after this, market moves up and hits this weekly level, and then we are seeing bearish divergences after taking out the highs and after hitting this weekly level. Well, at that point, you could take a short position right here, stop loss above the high, and targeting the $82,000 zone. So in this case, if this were to happen, you could potentially have a take profit one at the 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 position here. So it would come around, let's say, $89,000 if you have a take profit one here on your short trade, which would be a 1.7R take profit one, 0.85. That's very good. And the market does this, has a bit of a reaction. You would have two positions running, one short, one long, both hit take profit ones, which means that if the market was to push down and come down below 86, 85, 82, you're making money. If the market pushes up and goes 90, 92, 94, you're making money. And again, that's the position that I want to be in at all times, because that way you don't have to predict what's going to happen next. You just take good positions and let the market decide which of your positions run for longer. So that's my goal for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. And if something crazy happens, if Trump makes a big announcement and we have a big dump, look for longs. If we have a big pump with a lot of single prints, look for a short. And the reason I say that is because that's the exact thing that happened yesterday, right? When we had the World Economic Forum and we had news coming out, you can see how the market moved here as well. So if you were bullish as the price was pushing higher, you would have lost money. Or if you were bearish as the market was coming down to that yearly open, you would have lost money. So you have to understand that as the market is pushing down, as prices coming to support levels, you got to be more bullish. And as price is pushing higher, hitting that $90,000 zone, you gotta be more bearish. And if you do this constantly and train your mind into thinking in probabilities and understanding odds and order flow together, you're gonna be a great trader. So the New York just opened up, and in an hour or so, you're gonna have the initial balance of New York formed, and I'm just looking for either side, of a trade. So we had a local triangle here, like this, boom, boom, boom. We faked out to the upside, and now we broke to the downside. And if this triangle target plays out, that would be just at 88,550, which is just around our golden pocket. So amazing zone. I'm looking for that next. If it happens and we get a long trade from that with divergences, beautiful. So that's my read on Bitcoin right now. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I'm very happy to help. I'm going to do another video tomorrow as well. And if you want to get the education needed to understand how these levels work, why these levels are very key, and why I trade the way I trade, Tag Team is the place to be. We have amazing education, 10 hours of concentrated education that gives you TPO, risk management, range trading, and Exocharts and order flow. It's very precise and it's very good. So if you want to join, the link is in the description. If you don't, I'll see you tomorrow. Adios.